Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to webinar 2 in our series of the Skillsgrid webinars. For those of you joining today for the first time that might have missed out last week. Last week, we focused on the Skillsgrid features and what Skillsgrid is all about. Today's session will focus on what do you do with the data? How do you interpret the data? How do you work with the data? And what value does the data bring to your business? So my name is Lizette de Villiers. I'll be the host, and I will hand to Suzanne Conradi, our General Manager at Shadowmatch. She will be taking you through all the interesting things around the data. But before I hand to Suzanne, just for those of you that might have not joined last week, please remember that everybody joining live for one of the 2 webinars, you qualify for the 15 free Skillsgrid worksheets. So if you have not received your 15 free worksheets, please contact us, info@shadowmatch.co.za. I will also post the email address in the chat, and then we will make sure that we set up your entity and that we activate the 15 free worksheets for you. Those that have received the worksheets but not yet used it, I'm sure after today you will be quite eager to send out those links so that people can complete and that you can actually learn from the data. A few administrative arrangements. Please remember that you are currently, your microphone is currently in a mute setting. That's just for us to present uninterrupted. Towards the end of the session, we will allow you to unmute your microphone, so you are welcome to then participate, ask some questions, make comments. In the meantime, if there's a burning question or you're scared that you might forget your question, you're welcome to make use of the chat. I will keep an eye on the chat and also then present some of the questions to Suzanne as soon as she has ended the presentation. Suzanne, I think that's all the important admin arrangements from my side. All the best. Enjoy. Thanks. Over to you.
Thank you, Lizette. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to session 2 of our very exciting webinar series about Skillsgrid. Now, last time we spoke about what it's about, the purpose, the application, the value in principle. But then we said, let's get down to business and see if you have data, what you can do with it. Now, you have received the 15 free worksheets, as Lizette has just said. No worries, if you haven't already sent it out to anybody, you can use that at any time. But please don't miss out on this. The best way to learn is by actually utilizing it and feeling the data firsthand. So today I'm going to jump around a bit, showing you a few different case studies, a few usages of data. Because remember, those individuals in the audience or people listening to this recording, your scenario can be completely different to someone else in the audience. So I'm catering for a different scenario. So it all depends on what did you do with your 15 worksheets? Were they for applicants? Were they for employees? Did you create a benchmark? So yeah, you can decide. But let's jump in and see what today is going to be all about. So our agenda will first start, we'll just first look at a few cool stuff that you just need to know generally about Skillsgrid. So a few things like how it automatically updates every 12 months, how AI can support you, and how this really can guide your skills development, planning, and everything around that. Then we're going to jump into data to see, okay, once the data is in, how do you unlock this? First, looking at individual data, looking at benchmarks, employees, applicants, and then how the data is integrated on the system with all of the functionalities like exports and multi-matching and matching, and how all of this facilitates a few specific processes. So this can link to some of your needs. So maybe doing skills development for a big group, building project teams, recruitment, succession planning, and a million other things, but we don't have time for all the million things today. So we'll focus on that. And then at the end, we'll talk about the great offer that you have over and above the 15 free Skillsgrid worksheets you already received. Okay, so you see jam-packed, so let's jump in. So just to get the foundation, maybe you didn't join in last week, maybe this is the first time you're actually hearing about Skillsgrid. What is Skillsgrid? So it's a dynamic platform designed to power smarter recruitment and placement and employee development in organizations. It's a brother or sister platform to Shadowmatch. So if you're a Shadowmatch client, you know that focuses on habits. Skillsgrid specifically focuses on skills, but what makes it so dynamic and effective, it maps individuals' skills. So it's an amazing system that makes your skills hands-on, tangible, and actionable. So your skills aren't just something vague up in the air. You have a complete database or repository of all of the skills in your organizations, all the employees, applicants, and anybody engaging with your organization. You can put on the system and then engage with the system interface to do the amazing things. Now, those cool stuff we talk about at the start is, firstly, a nice thing to know is that the results automatically updates after 12 months. So it's not something that you need to lie awake up at night and say, oh, I wonder if our skills are still updated, haven't people grown or developed, and what's happening there. Now, skills in its nature are dynamic. Hopefully you're developing and growing in your skills repository as an individual. So hopefully there is change. The skills grid you did 5 years ago hopefully should have changed because you actively, and hopefully your organization is taking an active interest into your skills development. So we designed the system to cater for that, to say your skills are dynamic and it can be updated as the life happens. So there's a opportunity for continuous growth and change built into the process. And how does this work is the individuals are automatically prompted to update their skills. Now, don't stress if nothing's changed. If the skills are still in place and they don't want to change anything, they don't have to change anything. So if that is still relevant, they can completely just keep it as is. But how does this practically look? Is they will receive an email specifically to that individuals, and it tells them, listen, it's been a year since your skills grid profile was last updated. Please make sure your skills are still up to date on the system. If you would like to update your skills, please click here. So this goes directly to the individual and tells them you have the opportunity to update them. Also reminds them, listen, do you see how much time already went past? You thought you did it a few months ago. It's actually been a year. So quickly do a stock take of, are your skills still up to date? Now, the skills grid worksheet takes 15 minutes, 10 minutes to complete. So very brief. So updating the skills is going to be even quicker because they can just check everything. Yes. I haven't learned any new coding languages. No, still happy here. Oh, I developed my French writing skills. Yes, that's a bit better. They can just tweak, and then it's all automatically updated. And remember that whatever they updated, they automatically pulls into your database. So whatever they updated automatically updates on your side. So you're working with the current repository at all times. Now, they can click on this email. Let's say they didn't see the email, they missed the email, they couldn't find the email. No worries, they will also be prompted on their personal portal. So what is a personal portal? That's the portal where someone can engage with all their individual resources and great supporting things in the world of Shadowbash. So everything from learning about their habits and their career journey and study methods and relationship reports. So a lot of value in it. But also this is where they would have their updated skills map. So if to utilize it as an individual, this is where they can see it, learn from it, nice videos to help them understand it. And then this is what it would look like if it needs to be updated. So there's a prompt there telling them, listen, the last update was a year ago, and a notification coming in asking them, please just review to make sure it's still up to date. So yeah, do you see, quick and easy, it's built into the system. You don't have to worry to plan for this. And in any way, it would be a organic cycle to say, just as you're doing performance appraisals, just as you're doing everything in the year cycle, the skills can also be updated in that year, that you have the updated skills at the tips of your fingers. Okay, so that was the first just important thing to mention. Then this links to a question we received in last week's webinar. So it's all about, are we sure that the skills that we have, that we see in the results, are we sure that the individuals aren't overinflating it and it's actually the true skills shown in the results? Now, you'll remember from last week, there's a lot of things that caters for this. We notify them when they are invited that you will be asked to provide, or you could be asked to provide evidence of your skills. It automatically adjusts if the individuals rates themselves as highly skilled or skilled, highly skilled or expert in the sub-skills. If the data doesn't match up, it automatically updates it to say, I don't think you're an expert in IT development if you don't even know what Laravel, C++, and all the coding languages are, if they're all basically skilled. So it automatically adjusts it. But over and above that, if you want to make sure you check for the skills, especially if it's someone, maybe an applicant you're considering bringing in, the good news is in the current world with AI, this is so easy to do. You don't even have to allocate a resource to say, listen, you need to think about something, how we can test this. This is a little case study I ran with GPT earlier today. I just asked them, listen, I want to test a skill in practice because someone told me they're an expert in presentation skills. So that's the one I'm going with. So let's say the skills result is presentation skills at an expert level. And then I asked them, please give me, I said 5, this could obviously be 2, 10, how many ever you need, a few practical tasks or questions that we can use to test someone's presentation skills. Now look how very interesting this is, and you can obviously guide this to your specific department or focus area to say in business, in finance, in this. This is just a general one just to show you how easy it can be. So he gave me these 5 lists of this list of 5 tasks. And it says each one focuses on a different competency in the structure, the clarity, adaptability, and. Just read one few as an example. It said, ask the person, explain a complex concept simply. Task, pick a complex topic from your field and explain it in a way that a 10-year-old would understand. You have 3 minutes. And then it tells me what it is. So if you don't like that, you can tell them, no, I don't like that. Give you another option there. But you see how easy it is. It took me 2 minutes. I just asked him, listen, give me a list of this. So then I can obviously do this and say, what am I going to make part of the process? As you know, when you're interviewing, you need to have the same standard process for all of your individuals, deciding, okay, when we're testing or focusing or discussing presentation skills in the interview, what are the specific things we're going to ask them to do? And here's a few examples that you can then make part of the process. So just a comment to mention here, remember, without the results, the individual would still think they have an expert presentation skill. They would have put it on their CV, and without Skillsgrid, you wouldn't have known that this is specifically what they say. They could have inflated their CV as well, but you would have thought, okay, he obviously is in touch, he or she is in touch with their skills. And if you feel it's overinflated, now at least you know, listen, this is the skills data we're working with, so the processes can happen. So yeah, so just a quick little interesting tip there, how AI can make your skills process even easier if you join that with your Skillsgrid data. And then next we're coming to the applications more, to say, if you're using Skillsgrid for your development planning. So remember what Skillsgrid gives you is this entire database of all of the skills, and it even includes, okay, what are the specific skills individuals need to develop in their specific role. So if there's benchmarks, we'll get to that later on. But if you remember from last week, if there's a benchmark showing the skills needed in that specific role, we'd even identify what are the specific skills needed to develop for each individual. Now, in Shadowmatch, we have the development guidelines, the whole program, everything that needs to happen habit-wise. In Skillsgrid, we didn't develop the millions of skills programs because there are millions of Skillsgrid programs, and it's very specific for your needs. What I want to show you is how you can then easily link it to the solution, to the skills development guide. So obviously choose the skills training approach that fits your environment's needs, budgets, and priorities. So for one individual or for one organization, option A would work. For the next organization, something completely different might work. But there's many options, something like online training platforms, millions of them, and very professional and very easy to use and very cost effective, something like Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, and. Or you can do in-person training. Say if you prefer in-person professional facilitators, you've now identified, in my example here, someone needs to develop these Excel skills, and you can obviously make this as specific as possible. Should I take them from a beginner level to an expert level? Should they be focusing on graphs in Excel, on formulas, on whatever? You can make it as specific as possible. So would something like an online training course, would that be the correct option? Would an in-person training coming in, facilitating it with us, a formal course or certification through an institution, would that work? Or should we do it in-house? So someone in-house knows this very effectively, and that person can train that person, and we have the skills development learning program in-house that we facilitate employee to employee. Whatever your preference is, Skillsgrid helps you to guide this process, because now you know, okay, listen, Suzanne needs to develop Microsoft Excel. What are we going to do? Let's embark on a journey. I just pulled up a little screenshot here where you can see, okay, I searched for Microsoft Excel training courses at Udemy. Here's a few options. I can choose the facilitator I like, the course, the budget cost that works for me, anything. So obviously you then choose what works best for your organization. Okay, so that's then just a few intro comments to say, when working with Skillsgrid, keep those things in mind. Now let's start talking about data. Now, if you have data, you might have sent it to individuals that are currently performing in a role. So that would have created a benchmark for you. Just having the benchmark data is already so valuable because now you have that visual map of what are the specific skills level and priority and importance of the skills in that organization. So even if you don't do anything else, you just have a Skillsgrid benchmark. You don't even compare anybody to it. You're not going to the exports or anything. Immense value from this. What does this support? It basically helps us to understand that success landscape. So here's an example of a benchmark. Now this is in sales, and what we picked up here, or just a summary of this, do you see the critical skills, the one colored in this color here? Remember, this is all explained on the system. It's part of the report. Everything is there. This is now just very high level in our webinar today. But this is then the critical skills for this specific role. So we have negotiation, presentation skills, selling skills, and verbal skills. Now, if I see this map as the manager of this department or as someone engaging here, I now say, okay, great. The priority or the critical skills are the following skills. And now I should think about this critically to say, but are we actually actively supporting this and cultivating this on a continuous basis? So are we making sure we're staying sharp on all of this? Do we give our individuals opportunity to do this, to develop this? So over and above, yes, all the skills training things we just spoke about, but just how we go about skills and supporting skills and thinking about skills. Now I notice, and these are the critical skills for this. So am I giving even my top performers enough opportunity to learn, to understand, and to cultivate this? So is everybody, comfortable with what it means, negotiation skills, or whatever the example might be there? And then a very interesting test that you can do is, are the managers' expectations aligned with this focus? Very often the managers might have had a different expectation to say, oh, I would have thought the other, A, B, and C skill would be the critical skills. And now because the benchmark, the actual top performers in this organization informed this, now we see, okay, these are the priority they actually give to say, this is what I actually use to do the job at this level. So is that expectation aligned? And if not, how are we going to align that? So are we, is there synergy between how we understanding skills in our organization? Now, obviously, a Skillsgrid benchmark would look completely different from one organization to another, from one role to another. So if you created a benchmark, take a look at your data to see which were the critical skills, which were skills that were not needed, that you thought, oh, actually thought they used it, but it's actually not used. And then obviously the helpful and the important skills in between. Okay, so that's just focusing on benchmarks quickly. Now, if the data you use, the worksheets you used, went to employees in your organization or to applicants, just the data itself. Now, once again, we're not now linking it already to the system, just focusing on that for one moment. What do you now basically have? Is now you have the database of my employees' skills levels, all of my employees, or the 5 or 10 people you identified, or all of the applicants part of that process. For employees, you're equipped to guide and support their development journey. So the two scenarios, you're a manager working with your team, you don't have Skillsgrid. You need to help them develop, you need to help support them in the role. Without Skillsgrid, you're doing this blindly, you're guessing, you're jumping from one thing to another, and it's not a formal process necessarily, and it's not a guided or a bespoke process to say, yes, in employee one would benefit from this. Enter Skillsgrid. Now you have the data to see, okay, now I have the foundation for the discussion. Now I can see, okay, this is what Susanne sees her skills at this stage. Is it aligned? Yes, it is. So we're happy, we don't have to adjust. What are we going to do to get this to the next level? And then we embark on a skills development journey, as earlier on in the discussion. So you have that for all of your employees and all of the individuals you then invited to complete the worksheet that are employees in the organization. Now, for applicants, you're obviously then empowered to make informed hiring decisions because now you have that visual map of their actual skill set. So even if you don't have a benchmark, then you have it. It's basically a CV that's more alive that you can see, okay, focusing on skills, who is this individual? Now, obviously, once we start integrating it, it becomes more actionable and more tangible. But just take a moment to just actually look at the data you have to see, oh, how many expert skills for this individual, how many soft skills, all of that. What is the skills distribution for my employees for the specific skills? And then with Skillsgrid, it becomes tangible and actionable. Okay, so now let's start integrating because now our data can become more. So once you start integrating the data, it basically then makes the data more valuable. So the two pieces of the puzzle becomes more valuable than just the two pieces. The whole becomes more valuable than just the pieces itself. So on the Skillsgrid system, you have resources like exports, matching, the custom search skill we focused on last time, and multi-matching. Now, these things you can focus in to link to your specific need. So the data you have, your 15 free Skillsgrid worksheets, focus in on one of these things to say, oh yeah, this actually answers the question I had. Why did I identify the following 15 individuals in my organization? Whatever that question is, see how one of these would probably help you to answer that question. So one of the possible applications of this is if you want to do a collective group skills development. Because focusing one-on-one, that's great if you have small numbers. If it's just 5 people in your team, that's great. It's a facilitated conversation, just the you and your team across the table. But what if it's 5,000 people or 50,000 people or whatever the number can be to say, and you are head of training and strategic skill development in the organization as a whole? See how the data can facilitate that to say in large scale, how does this support this? So the Skillsgrid export really simplifies that large scale planning and enables optimal utilization of talent across the organization. Now, here's a little data showcase or a little scenario to say, in this company, they have a group of marketing and communication interns. So they have the interns and off they go. So it's, they need to now complete the intern program and maybe then be appointed in the organization. And they did Skillsgrid, and when they pull the export, something interesting came up to see, but okay, there's a specific lacking skill across the board. What are we going to do about this? Now, how did this work? What practically happened? I went to the system, I pulled the export. So I simply went to export data. And on export data, I can then select all of the fields that I want and I click download. So that's how easy it was on the system side. I just exported the specific data or sections that I want in the export. What is in the export? Let's see this one here. So it's obviously the names and everything of all of the individuals in this specific department. I'm focusing on the marketing and communications interns. But the specific column of value to me in this specific scenario is this one that says the skills gap. The skills with the biggest difference lower than the benchmark. So the benchmark these individuals were compared to is the current effective individuals in marketing and communication. So the employees already in the job doing what they're supposed to one day do after they've completed the intern program. And now what was interesting is I just played around a bit with the data because the numbers got a bit large. This is many, many individuals, quite a large organization. And then I said, but listen, I want to see, isn't there a trend? Isn't there something that's spiking across the board that is, a trend in the skills gap? And what came up is writing for English. That's the ones I then asked Excel to all mark in purple. So if you see, if I scroll down, all of the fields that are marked in purple are where individuals actually have a skills gap or a lacking skills. Then interns don't have the English writing ability that is on the level what is needed in this role. So that was actually quite scary to see. It is 209 individuals out of this group. It's 76% of my intern group actually don't have the writing English ability to the level that they're supposed to have. Okay, so the system made all of this easy. I had the export. I just said, okay, understand in this column, what is the one that comes up the most? Now I'm enabled to go into action to say, okay, what am I going to do about this? And this is then where you decide, are we making it part of the onboarding phase for interns. So in the first 2 weeks, it's something that we touch on. Is it a continuous development? So throughout the intern program, we make sure this is a skill that is developed. How does the skill development look? Obviously, we then choose the option that suits our organization. So back to our introduction, is this an online course? Is it a verbal thing? Is it a professional certification? Is it something they need to develop by themselves? Whatever the point of the matter is my Skillsgrid or skills training and development planning as a collective is now so much easier because now I can work with the data every click of a button and everything I see. Okay, you see a silly scenario, but this can now be any organization at any department or area that they want to understand what's happening skills development wise. Okay, let's get back to our presentation. Great. Okay, so we did that little showcase there. Now, what of the other applications could be, listen, you want to build a specific project team. So you as the user, you as the person hearing this, you have a mandate to build a specific project team with a specific combination of skills. So very precise, exact skills required for this. And the system makes this possible to say, using your custom skills search, you can make finding the right skills combination effortless. Now, the little example case study here is we need to find a project leader to help us with a hybrid working from home enablement for our customer support department. So we all went to a remote work, and now we need to go back to hybrid to say, how much are we working from the office? How much are we working from home? What is this? And the organization said, listen, you in HR or you as consultant or you whoever using Skillsgrid, please find us the correct project leader for this. Now, where do you start without the system? What are you going to do? Are you going to guess? Are you going to knock on doors and say, hi, can you maybe help me with this? Good news is if you have Skillsgrid, it's going to be easy. So all you go is you go to your Skillsgrid system, and then you ask the system to please, let's just go back. Great. To please find all of the individuals with the specific skills needed for this task. So from any point, you can go, let's just go to this file. Now, this is a demo file. The numbers are a bit small, but you can obviously imagine if it's a lot of individuals in the organization, you will see what it looks like if I'm going to my export in just a moment. But you can then say, listen, okay, so my mandate is I need to find this project head. Okay, the skills he's going to need or she's going to need is definitely negotiation skills, because there's going to be so many stakeholders I need to convince. People that are happy working from home, they're going to have to come back. Oh, yep, that's going to have to happen. Yes, verbal skills, a lot of discussions is going to need to have. And that's applicable. Management skills, project management skills, definitely. He's going to have to head up the entire project. Let's see, planning skills, very vital, because we want to get this delivered by end of quarter next year. So whatever your skills combination is, you then say, the following combination of skills, go and find. So I tell the system, go and find. So now it's searching for those specific skills, the ones I custom selected, linking to my project, and it's finding the closest match to the softest match. And I can once again export. Now I did an export before the session and see what happens here. That's our previous one, this one. So here is my entire database. I didn't knock from door to door. I didn't go to sales and then to finance and then to everybody on the system that I have. I did this export with those specific skills that I wanted. I wanted management skills, negotiation skills, people planning, whatever the skills combination is. And these are the top candidates that came out. They're expert across the board in all of that. And now I can say, okay, these individuals, let's go and start there. So if I need to identify the project leader, is it realistic? Is it feasible? Can it? Yes, this individual, yes. They're currently working in the Pretoria branch. It would work, then I go into the practicality of it to say, yes, does it suit the realistic expectations of this? But data-wise, you see how quickly it went for me to say, okay, I immediately have the full set of who is actually equipped to do the following task. Now remember, this can be any skills combination. My scenario here was just identifying a project leader. This can be anything to you need to have a band for the year-end function. And do you have any violin players in the organization? Do you have any piano players? whatever your skill thing is, you can, with that custom search skill, effectively and easily, the problem you need to solve, then link it to the data to say, do this effectively, that I'm not wasting time and it's not supported by data. Okay, so that's one case study there, or one little scenario that we discussed. Let's move on to our next one. Now we can look at, okay, the whole recruitment thing. Okay, now this is actually one of the main things about Skillsgrid. So we can do an entire demo. The entire hour could have been just around this. But basically what you have is you're building that database. So as you have your benchmarks, as you have your employees, as you have applicants, your database becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So everything around placement, putting who into which role, is obviously then supported by this, matching individuals to benchmarks and an app. Now you're building a growing skills repository of current employees and potential candidates, and you're strengthening your hire decisions with a comprehensive organizational skills database. So as the recruitment continues, it's more informed, more enabled. Now, the little case that I want to show you here is, what about these candidates that when they were there, they were so nice. The CV was fantastic. It really, it was a great fit, but the timing was off. It wasn't, for some reason, they weren't appointed or employed in the specific role that you considered them for. So you have to unfortunately tell them, sorry, not now. It was an unsuccessful placement. But it's that person that keeps on in the back of your mind, like, I wish we could have actually had a position. Maybe the company was too small. You didn't have a complete marketing department yet, whatever the scenario was. But that one that got away, isn't it possible to now actually find a place for them? So now, if you have them on the database, you can then pick them up again to say, okay, maybe in a future role, some of your previous candidates now have the specific skills that you need. So let's say I applied to your organization in February 2025. It was not an effective placement. And now I'm on your database. And now in November 2025, you're searching for your skills database, and up comes my result. Maybe you reach out to me again to say, hi, would you consider bringing it in? Because now you already know I'm appointed, or I have the correct skills grid for that thing. Now, this is all facilitated by the multi-matching. So let's say, let me just quickly show you what that looks like. What I would recommend is for you to then have a file that you call previous applicants. And all of the previous applicants or whatever you want to call it, unsuccessful applicants, previous CVs, untapped potential, whatever you want to call that department, put all those results into that file. So if you do a multi-match and you pick up, okay, that individual's result is lying in that specific file, okay, great. This is the CVs I haven't unlocked yet, and up it goes. So do you see a candidate that was not a fit initially, but then maybe as your organization changed, then actually be the correct fit for that individual. Okay, so yeah, you basically work with your data there to show it. I'll show you in the next case study. You'll see how when we're doing the multi-matching, you'll see how that can work for that as well. If you now do succession planning, so this is understanding the skills we have, how are we building it into the future? Are we making sure we're building the leaders of tomorrow? Are we building that skills foundation that it's sustainable going into the future, so that it's not all in the senior level, and as they move out of the organization, our organization becomes poorer and poorer knowledge-wise, skills-wise, because we're just losing it? Are we making sure that's continuously happening? Now, the multi-match functionality helps you to identify individuals and then cultivate this to say, if we're working for that next level. So maybe I'm in a junior level and you're multi-matching me to a senior level. Now we can see who has the skills and which skills should we develop to get you to that. So my name, or the little case study name here, is turning potential into actual promotion. So you're seeing potential there in the skills, but then actually promoting to it. So you'll see now how that links to the potential candidate as well. Is, let's say I have my benchmark here of my marketing directors. And I know the marketing director is going to retire in 2 years' time. What's my pipeline? What's my game plan? What am I doing that this department continues to flourish, continues to be successful? So all I do is I click on the Skillsgrid multi-match. And now I have a benchmark of the very, very successful directors currently in these positions. I have that benchmark. I know which skills they are using. By clicking multi-match, now I can search the database. Now here I can then include any files that I want. So let's say I wanted to include the previous applicant files, I could include it. Let's say, no, we're keeping this in-house. We're not considering taking someone out. I deselect to say, don't make that part of the process. Obviously, there's a different name on the screen, but basically you can then filter to whatever you need. Now, by doing this, you then say, okay, these individuals actually already have the specific skills for this. So the training is going to go very quick and very effective. It's not going to be a lot of money and resources and time that we need to, allocate to these individuals to bring them up to standard for this role. So let's see, maybe Shoal or Joe, maybe is the individual for us. So now again, you link it to practicalities to say, is this individual in that department? Yes. Is it possible to earmark them? Is it possible to start the training? But you know that the skills are already there. So it might be in a junior role, you're doing that succession planning of who already have the skills closest to what is expected in that. And maybe you have untapped skills in different roles that you didn't know, listen, but they already have all the skills they need to go to executive level. And we never even realized this, but with the data, we now see, okay, we already have that skill set, and the multi-matching makes that possible. Okay, so that's then just our case study there for the multi-matching. And then let's end it off here in the presentation. So maybe before we get to the nice thing, maybe just focusing here for a bit is, you see the different applications. It was all focusing on either the Skillsgrid data or the application or functionality on the system. So by using the data together with the export, together with the multi-matching, together with the matching to benchmarks, you're basically integrating the data to say all of the decisions, all of the management, all of the planning and time that goes into using skills in our organization is now optimized, is now informed, is now easier because it's supported by the system. So this can be for managers, it can be for your talent managers, your HR, or whoever is engaging with the system. By bringing this resource into the organization, it can make that easier. If you haven't selected the 15 individuals, choose wisely to say, okay, which one of these do you want to test out? Do you want to test out, is there a current lacking trend in that specific role, matching the employees to the benchmark? Do you want to do it for a placement to say, oh, we already have 5 candidates we're considering bringing in. Let's see what it looks like, what the skills they are that they bring to the table. You can decide according to your needs. Now let's end off with the good news. So wait, there's a bit more. You have an opportunity to purchase any Skillsgrid worksheets at a 40% discount. Now, we're specifically offering this to this group, the individuals that participated in the webinar series. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for taking your time and joining us for these sessions. And this promotion runs from now, so you can request it this afternoon or tomorrow morning, all the way until end November. If you purchase 10 or more worksheets, this becomes applicable. So you purchase 10, 11, or 100 Skillsgrid worksheets or 1,000 Skillsgrid worksheets, you automatically then have 40% discount to the standard price. Now, we've added a great support there to this to say, over and above this, we'll then include a free workshop facilitation or support process from our ShadowMatch team, or a consultant if you're already working with a consultant in your organization. So the consultant or the ShadowMatch head office team will then support you to say, but how are you unlocking the full potential about this? So you don't have to go blindly or do it all on your own. There's a whole support process around this. So please don't miss this opportunity, and please don't miss the opportunity to test out. So first test with the 15, you still have the 15 free worksheets. So test it out, feel it, and say, listen, okay, I saw it on small scale. I saw it just in those 15 individuals. Let me test it more. Let me experience the value more by unlocking it for the whatever department or the whole organization you're working. Okay, great. Thanks, Lizette. That's then all from my side. Back to you.
Thank you, Suzanne. I'm sure everybody would agree with me that this was very insightful and that you can see how much you can do with your Skillsgrid data and how it can really help you and support your processes within your organization in development, in succession planning, and just setting up teams and setting up project teams. There were a few questions that I would like to just highlight the answers for those of you that have not followed the chat. So one of the questions was, so what was the purpose of us completing the free Skillsgrid worksheet? That's now all the participants. You will recall, dear participants, that you all received a link for yourself to complete the Skillsgrid worksheet. What was the intent or the purpose? It's really just for you to see, what does a Skillsgrid worksheet look like? So that when you start sending out those 15 free worksheets, you are in a position to at least help and answer and comment on what people can expect. So that was purely the intent, was just for you to get a feel for what are the questions, what does it look like, how long does it take, what's the duration of completing this worksheet. So that was the purpose of you receiving that free worksheet. Now, keep in mind that some of you are completely new to Shadow Match, and that's fantastic. We really welcome you on board. But you might still feel a bit lost, or maybe just a little bit unsure of how to go about in sending those 15 free Skillsgrid worksheets to your individuals within your department or your business. I know there was a video that explained quite nicely, but I can understand that if it's very new, you might still feel unsure. Please reach out to us. We are more than happy to set up a quick Zoom call to guide you through the process, to get those worksheets out so that you get the 15 free out to some benchmark employees. And remember, there was also a question. The benchmark is set by means of your top performers completing that Skillsgrid worksheet. And then once you've got your benchmark, we can help you to compare and to look at what you can learn, see what you can learn from the data like Suzanne showcased today. So I think that was just two important things that I wanted to highlight. Even I know Suzanne gave the offer of the 40% and said that we will help you with a workshop. You don't have to wait until then. If you still sit with your 15 worksheets, or you've sent them out and now you don't know what to do, you've got the data, contact us. Let's set up a Zoom call. Let's help you to do those exports and see what you can learn from the data. There's another question. I'm sure you have read that second question, Suzanne. I haven't read whilst I'm busy now. Maybe you want to just respond to Vessel's next question. I will mute and then you can talk. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Lizette. Yeah, thanks, Vessel, and thanks for that thumbs up that you sent. The next question linked to how is this linking to his industry specifically? So the Skillsgrid worksheet you received as a webinar participant was just as an applicant or as an individual worksheet. We didn't send benchmark Skillsgrid worksheets specifically that you don't have to now, because it's going to be a random file that you're not working in. So you're going to say, but listen, I'm not working in sales, or I'm not working in webinar. And the questionnaire is going to ask you, in your current role in webinar, in sales, in whatever we call the department, please rate the priority. Now, what happens is if you are identified as a benchmark, it then links it to that to say, but you have your skill set, whatever your experts, your wherever, everything, your musical skills, your talent skills, the whole thing that you have there. In your current role, what is the priority? So do you use this often? Is it very important? Is it critical? So that's how that second part of the benchmark, that how it's colored in. Is it critical? Is it not needed? That's how we gathered that data by the benchmark individuals identifying the priority of that. Now I'll quickly search there for a file. We did show it in last week's session, just that you can see that visually. So I'll just find that, then we can share it on the screen there, but it then basically links to that. And then maybe I can just answer the next question there to touch on it. I don't know if it's John. Thanks for that question. She asked, however, is the system able to spot or compensate for skills embellishment by a user? Now, we also touched on that last week, and it was a quickly touched in the introduction. So how the worksheet works is when the individual is invited, it tells them you can be asked to provide proof of this. So let's say you're an applicant applying for a specific role, to say, you telling us you've been you're an expert manager, so we can actually call and ask, okay, where did you manage? Who did you manage? Now, how it's built into the worksheet is the moment you rate yourself as skilled, highly skilled, or expert, a sub-skill question opens up to say, give us the detail. So management skills as an example, to say, okay, which roles did you manage in which organization? How many people did reported to you? Can we give us a reference that we can call? So it's the detail around it. Or if it's something like IT programming skills, to say, okay, a few coding languages, how skilled are you on this? Are you basically skilled, expert skilled? So the detail. And if the sub detail doesn't match the top, so let's say I've rated myself as expert, and at the bottom sub skills, it's basic. I actually don't have any know-how of this, then it's automatically going to adjust it. It also informs the individual to say, this is going to be adjusted. And remember, the Skillsgrid worksheet, the result is live the whole time. So if the individual also wants to adjust it themselves, they can go in, but it's then basically provided, well, that's how it's built into the worksheet. Now, just another interesting comment there. It's interesting that we find people actually underrate themselves more than what they overrate themselves, since we've been using the system. So people are more hesitant to, to embellish. But just the same as they could have embellished their CV or embellished the conversation you had in the interview, the same with the skills, at least now you have something to go on to say, okay, we have the starting point for the conversation. So if the scenario is applicant, great. We have the skills data set that you say you are skilled in, let's test. And then it links to what we said in the session today is, how are you going to test it? You can ask AI to do that, to say, give me a few things I can ask them to do in the interview, or however formal you want to test it. Are you linking it to a competency test, as a formal skill test around this? Or is it you just want to just see, okay, can they actually present if they're saying their expert presentation a skills level? Yeah, I don't know if that you want to add, Lizette, and then back to you for the other questions.
Thanks, Suzanne. No, I think that was very comprehensive, well explained. Thank you for that. I want to urge those of you that missed last week, the webinar link for last week's session is available. If you go to our website, shadowmatch.com, and you go to the events tab, you will find the link to the YouTube video on the calendar. Last week's date, I think it was the 10th, you will find the link on the calendar. I've seen the hands that were raised. I will enable the setting for you to unmute your microphone in a moment. I just want to quickly comment on the last comment we received in the chat. Paul says he's got microphone issues. Paul, there's no longer an annual fee. Those of you that have clients using Skillsgrid or that had that in the past, we don't have an annual fee. We have the options where you can pay as you use, or you can purchase in bulk, or you can go on a subscription. So there's no annual fee. I hope that answers your question. Thanks. If it's not, then you can just post in the chat again. Great. I'm going to enable the setting for you to unmute. Then I'm going to give Philip a chance. I don't see Philip's name. I might just be missing it. If Philip is not there, then you can go, Felicia. So let me enable the setting. Philip, if you are still here and you can hear me, then you're welcome to go ahead. Just give me one moment. Great. Your microphones can now unmute.
Can you hear me, Lizette?
Yes, go ahead, Philip. Thanks. Wonderful.
I just have a few questions. The one relate to the architecture of the skills grid, and I just want to test my own understanding. The way I understand it is that you start with an organogram, then you have roles, and then you plug people into those roles after they've completed their skills. Now, my question there is, can you create more than one organogram, or do you have to go and buy another organogram? What do you buy to do it for more than one firm? That's my first question.
Okay, I'll shoot. Suzanne, if you want to add, you're welcome. So Philip, you set up your organization that wants to use Skillsgrid. You set that organization up as an entity on Skillsgrid. Suzanne, that's the system you saw when Suzanne did the demonstration. So each company will have their own entity. So if you are the consultant supporting your clients, you will get access to all those entities, but the company using Skillsgrid will have access to their entity, to use your words, their organogram. So you will set it up per company, and you can obviously set up the organogram as you see fit and as needed by the organization. And preferably, we want you to create the organogram before you send the Skillsgrid worksheets, because this links to Vessel's question. When the benchmark people complete the last question on the Skillsgrid worksheet, they set that benchmark for that specific role by answering those questions to what skills are needed in that role, and that then links to your organogram on the Skillsgrid system. So it's important. Obviously, we can move it around, but for the benchmark, that is a bit more tricky, because then they will have to redo that question when we move them to another department. So it is first prize to have your organogram set up. And that's very, very simple. It's really the click of a button, and we can help you. And when you start using the system, obviously we guide you, and there is some training that you do just to find your way technically around the system. I don't know if you want to add to that, Suzanne, before you go to your next question, Philip.
Great. Let's quickly just show visually that it just makes sense for Philip and the other participants. So the demo company I'm working in is quite small, but this is then where they would create their organogram or their structure. So at this
Okay.
level, if you are a consultant, you would see more files here. So you would see company Z,
Okay.
company A, company B, company 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
and each of the companies would be linked to their specific account type. So this example here is this is a subscription company, but they can then choose, are they pay-as-you-go? What is the type of usage that they use? And then once you go into the company, they then create their organogram according to their structures and roles. So you see, you can have infinite numbers of this. It all depends on how many clients you have and how many roles they have in the organization. And then whilst I'm sharing, I just quickly want to just to end it off there with Vessel's discussion, as well as this is then the question the benchmark individuals receives at the end to say, please update your job priority skills for this specific role. So in this specific role they're working in doing your current job, please indicate the importance of the following skills. So here's administrative skills, you've rated yourself, you know what we meant with this. Now tell us, is it critical, important, helpful, or not necessary? So everything is then completed. So all of your top performers does this to see, okay, but what is the actual priority of this? And then you would have seen there in the Z's answer in the chat as well. This is also something organized a user can set up to say, I know the skills needed here. So you can then do this for the role to say, it's critical. This is a critical skill. This one is not important. So you can rate it on as a user as well. But the best practice is for the top performers to actually then do it, that it's actually informed by them doing the job. Great.
Thank you for that. Just a quick one then. Am I right when I say, I think I asked the question last week also, but I'm still just want to get confirmation on that when you do those additional sub skills, like for instance, in the case of software, you created Outlook, whatever ever, can you as a user, that's now me as the administrator, not the user, can I have a free hand in creating for all of those, let's call it skills domains, for all of the individual domains, can I create such sub-skills? Or is it only for the technical ones?
Susanna, you're welcome to go ahead.
Okay, so if I'm understanding your question correctly, Philip, you're asking, can you create custom skills? So those sub skills linked to that for any of the skills. Is that what you want to know?
Yeah.
Yes, So you can for any of the skills, so any of the headline skills. Let's show that visually again. Just linking here. So if I say, if you want to add it to finance, this is now the role. So whatever the role would be in your organization, if you edit this specific file and you go to the worksheet settings, there's an option here at the bottom to say custom sub skills, add custom sub skills. And you first then say which sub skill is this linking to, and you see everything is on the list. So not just technical, it can be verbal, social, everything in between. So you first identify this and then add that sub skill to it. Any of the headline skills, it is possible to create that. Yes, Philip.
Okay, last question, easy one. Where is this information hosted on your system? In other words, the data is hosted on your system.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So on our servers, we have to make sure the system doesn't have downtime, it's data protected. So the same as the shadow match data, hosted on the same server and everything. So it's
Thank you.
Our priority.
Thank you.
Maybe just a thing to mention at this point is, if you are a consultant joining in this session, we will be focusing on Skillsgrid in one of our upcoming sessions to say, if you have any questions around this, how you're supporting clients to this, because it's great to see the questions around it. So in that capacity, we will have a focus session for that as well. Just I think I wanted to mention there, Lizette.
Thanks, Suzanne. Suzanne, before I get to you, Felicia, I haven't forgotten. Can I just ask you to share that last screen you shared? Again, I just want to show people where you can get a list of all the sub-skills, because we sometimes get people that request sub-skills, but it's actually already on the list. So where Suzanne's cursor is now, if you just go one up, it says click here to see. Suzanne, just go down with your cursor. Just above your headline skill, there's a little sentence to see which sub-skills. Yeah, if you click there, then it downloads the document that shows you what are the skills and the sub-skills that will populate when somebody answers a Skillsgrid worksheet. So there you can see what are all the programming skills listed, what are all the verbal skills listed, what are all the planning skills, so that when you add sub-skills, please work through this document first, because those skills are already on the system. So Philip, I would suggest if you work, this is what you need to look at before you start adding sub-skills, because many times we get people requesting sub-skills, which I then decline, or head office then declines it because it's already on the list and we don't want to duplicate. Great, thanks. Philip, I see you need to run soon, but we just wanted to show you that. Fantastic. Okay, let's go to you. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Felicia, you're welcome to unmute and go ahead with your question.
I'm muted. So sorry. The first question, already Philip asked it. My second question is going to be on the computer literacy. I saw on the sub skills is Microsoft skills. In our company, we don't use Microsoft, we use Google. Everything is not PowerPoint. We use slides, it's not Excel, it's Google Sheet. And then when they answer, they just say no, 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 no. And we know that they do have the computer literacy. Can we maybe add also Google products?
Thanks for that comment. You can add that, Felicia. So as the product user in the company, you will go to that screen that Suzanne just showed. Maybe Suzanne, you can share again. And the custodian in the company, if it's you or whether it's somebody working with you in the company, you can merely go and add those sub-skills. So as a user, you have that flexibility to, we're not going to remove Microsoft because a lot of other companies use Microsoft, but you can then add Google Sheets, Google, whatever you use. So what you will do is you will go to headline skill on your setting, and you will then add Google Sheets, Google whatever, and then you just save. And then the next person that completes the Skillsgrid worksheet will get these on their sub-skills as options that they can select that they are skilled in using these. So it is available, and it's now a nice practical example to share with the audience that is how you will then go and add the skills. Many times people in engineering companies add skills where people need to have specific skills on a software program, or where people work with machinery, they need specific technical skills in driving a truck or working with machinery in a factory. So you can add all those skills then under technical. Great. Let's see your next question, Felicia.
My other one, I did do the questions myself. I did answer them. And I don't know, I think they're too direct. Like, can you code? They just say expert, highly skilled on those questions. Can we maybe try to change and maybe randomize the question, or maybe ask the same question once so that we can see maybe the consistency in the answering of the questions?
Thanks, Felicia. Unfortunately, we can't change questions. The system's been live for quite some time. It's been well researched. The questions as well as the answers has been well researched before it went live. So I think if there's a specific thing that you're not sure, you can reach out to us and we can maybe help you understand. But all the skills have specific definitions. All the sub-skills have their definitions. They are worded in such a way that people can understand the definition. And that's why we have the sub-skills. So if somebody says, I'm highly skilled or expert, it will populate a next question that helps them then qualify and explain to the reader, why do I say I'm skilled? Or why do I say I'm highly skilled? And that also has definitions. So skilled has a definition. Basically skilled has a definition. No skill has a definition. So each of those ratings also
I saw that.
They also have a definition, so that people understand, what do we mean with expert? Oh, this is what they mean with expert. Maybe not expert, maybe I'm just highly skilled. So that is there. And then there's a question that also said, can we remove skills? No, we don't remove skills. People then just ignore that, or they say it's not necessary in the job. You must understand that this caters for jobs in all areas. So unfortunately, you can't remove skills, but you can add sub-skills. I hope that answers the question. I think it was from Emily.
I can maybe quickly just show those definitions just for everybody on the screen. So what Lizette referred to there is, yes, in every headline skill, the levels are the same, meaning we're always asking, is it no or limited all the way to expert? But the detail then defines it. And what does Skillsgrid mean with referring to any of them. So let me just move my zoom here. So with writing skills, we're referring to the following ability. This is what we're referring to. What is no or limited English writing skill? There is the definition. So it explains, I cannot express myself through written words and. So each of the levels then define to say, okay, in this rating scale, I am highly skilled because I resonate with this. This describes how I am. So yeah, so that's the detail in it, is how we can see, okay, what is the weighting of that skill specifically? And then obviously the sub skills come below this, the detail even more and about the specific skill. This is just for the headline skill, each of the levels then define. Okay, thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Suzanne. We have unfortunately run out of time. I don't want to keep you longer. I see there are a lot of questions. So please reach out to us. Again, info@shadowmatch.co.za. We would like to help you to really use those 15 worksheets so that you can learn, not just learn about the data, but also learn how to use the system so that you feel comfortable with the system and that you can make use of the 50% discount offer. So please reach out to us. This recording will be available on the calendar by tomorrow. So if you want to listen to it again and maybe go and look at some of the elements that Suzanne touched on, you will have the recording by tomorrow. Unfortunately, I don't have time to allow for any more questions, but please reach out to us. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you for the presentation, Suzanne, and we hope to see you soon. Have a great day. Cheers, everyone.